read the statement of compliance?
Yes, please.
This meeting is being held in conformity to the Open Public Meeting Act. Proper public notice of the meeting was published in the local papers on September 6, 2014 and September 7, 2014. If any board member or member of the public in attendance believes that this meeting is in violation of the Open Public Meeting Act, the Board of Education requests that they make a statement at this time. The board wishes to make those in attendance aware that this meeting is being recorded on video and will be broadcast by the board at a later date on cable TV channel 77 and FiOS channel 46. The Hoboken Board of Education is committed to preserving the decorum of the public process and is mindful that we live in an electronic age of computers, cell phones, and other electronic communication devices. Nevertheless, we respectfully request that all meeting participants kindly silence their electronic devices during the course of the meeting, and if use of that device is necessary, we ask that you please leave the meeting room if you need to conduct personal business. Thanks, and if you please rise for the salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Biancamano.
Present.
Ms. Evans.
Here.
Dr. Gold.
Here.
Mr. Klupfel.
Here.
Ms. Mitchell.
Here.
Mrs. Rhodes-Kearns.
Present.
Ms. Sobolov.
Here.
Ms. Stromwall.
Here.
And Ms. Tyroller.
Here. Okay, and my apologies ahead of time. We have some items that we need to go into executive session about ahead of the superintendent's report and some of the committee reports so that we can apprise the portions that are personnel related to the full board before the committee report, which is acceptable to read in public, is read. I promise you, it is not going to be longer than 45 minutes. Dr. Brickell and I had talked about it because we know that this unfortunately doesn't allow the public to make agenda comments first, but I think it's important that the public hear the committee reports before they start on the agenda items because it all ties together. So with that, I'd like to go into executive session.
Madam Chair, will we
Yes?
also have the opportunity to ask any questions that we were, from the agenda items that we were going to take into closed session?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We're going to just do the executive session ahead, just so that we can, there are some things that we need to brief, that the full board should be briefed on first.
Okay.
I believe that we can't discuss in public.
I just want to make sure we're not going to close.
Right.
Right, that's why.
Oh, you mean if there's any, do you have some items that you feel need to be discussed in closed session?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, may I, Madam President?
Yes.
So, just so that we appropriately articulate in public the reasons for the executive session, my understanding from the President's comments was that we're going into executive session to discuss matters of personnel. So my respectful question then, not just for you, Ms. Rose-Kearns, but for any board members, is would there be another topic besides personnel? Because if so, we have to make it part of the motion.
Yes, agenda item.
Well, that agenda item is not a recognized exception, so I don't know what...
Well, we can give you the agenda item numbers, if that's...
But just giving me the agenda item numbers doesn't mean that the discussion is an appropriate discussion for executive session. That's my concern. If they're personnel issues, that's fine. You don't need to give the agenda numbers. But if it's just something on the agenda, it doesn't necessarily mean that the executive session discussion is proper.
Right,
For
but...
our questions that maybe are improper in public, that's what we're not sure of.
Right, and normally we can take any agenda item off and discuss it into closed session. That's exactly what I'm asking, if we can do that now, instead of...
You can if
Right.
if the topic is an appropriate topic for executive session discussion, and that's what I'm trying to discern so we can make it part of the motion.
Okay.
If I may, Madam President,
Sure.
If I can just confer with Ms. Rose-Kearns and Mr. Biancamano so we can make the proper motion.
Absolutely. And
We're not charging extra for this.
Dr. Brickell, the personnel covers the three things that we talked about, right? Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's your, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Madam President, based on that privileged communication I had, I think the appropriate motion should be a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters of personnel and matters related to the collective bargaining negotiations.
Okay, that's fine with me. Thank you.
Motion?
Vito, thank you, Peter and Fran.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay,
Thank you.
so can I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Ms. Sobolov and Ms. Mitchell?
Call roll.
Mr. Biancamano?
Aye.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Dr. Gold?
Yes.
Mr. Cluffell?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes Kearns?
Yes.
Ms. Sobolov?
Yes.
Ms. Stromwall?
Yes.
And Ms. Tyroller.
Yes. Okay, we promise, quick. Okay,
Do we move to come back into?
yeah, Bill, do we move to come back into session?
Motion.
Motion come back into session?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, and my apologies at my poor estimate. We did our best, and next time I will overestimate again. Okay,
Would you like me to
so-
call roll, or you want to take a
Should we call
voice
roll to
vote?
get started? Sure.
Mr. Biancamano?
Aye. Present.
Ms. Evans?
Here.
Dr. Gold?
Yes.
Mr. Cluffell?
Here.
Ms. Mitchell?
Here.
Ms. Rhodes Kearns?
Here.
Ms. Sobolov?
Here.
Ms. Stromwall?
Here.
And Ms. Tyroller.
Here. So now we'll proceed with the meeting, and we'll start with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Just looking for a place to turn this on, but I guess it's always on.
Yeah.
Tonight I have a couple of things to report on. The first is the school self-assessment report for determining grades under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. As required by the New Jersey Department of Education, the school safety team, also known as the school climate team, in each school conducted a self-assessment in the 2013-14 school year. Using a rubric provided by the State Department, each team compiled a summary report reflecting several items. One, initiatives and approaches, employees training, curriculum and instruction, personnel specialist in charge, the incident reporting procedures and reporting format. The entire procedure occurred under the direction of the district's anti-bullying coordinator. All district schools have met the required scores and are in compliance with requirements for the 2013-14 school year. And a resolution is on the agenda tonight, which will allow the superintendent's certification of results to occur by the due date of September 30th. Okay. Second thing is the New Jersey CUSAC. Every 3 years, the Department of Education sends monitors into a school district for the New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum, which is commonly called CUSAC. And we had that happen here in 2013-14. A team representing the State Department and the Hudson County office visited the district to determine compliance in the following 5 major areas: instruction and program, fiscal management, operations, personnel, and governance. As a result of the audit, the district was notified that it was compliant in 4 of the 5 areas, receiving a score of 96% in fiscal management, 100% in operations, 90% in personnel, and 100% in governance. The district did, however, fall short in the area of instruction program. And this determination was appealed in a letter from the district's former superintendent to the Department of Ed in June 2014. Subsequently, the appeal was denied by the State Department, and as a result, the district is required to develop a district improvement plan for that specific area for submission no later than November 1st, 2014. And I have identified a team, and I'm currently working with that team of personnel who will be in charge of creating a corrective plan for board approval in October so that we can submit it on time. I have a third item, and that is I'd like to propose goals for 2014-15. And first and foremost, coming down the pike is the new PARC test, which is going to be replacing some of the tests that we're familiar with. So one of the goals we'd like to continue to do is final preparation for and the implementation of the park. Goal number 2, we started the RTI, Response to Intervention program, last year in grade 1, and it's time to evaluate the effectiveness of that implementation. So I'm suggesting the evaluation of response to intervention implementation effectiveness in the primary grades with an eye toward expansion of that program, and also the evaluation of the implementation of the AIM program in the junior and senior high school. Goal number 3, we did receive a grant last year, and we did a lot of upgrade in the non-instructional technology infrastructure in the district. But I think we need to take a look at both the instructional and non-instructional technology in the district, just to get a status of where we are, where we've been, and where it is that we want to go. Goal number 4, facilities and student housing. Currently, some of the schools are underutilized, some of the schools are overutilized. We have 5 schools in the district. We have the central office in Demarest, and I think it's time that we take a look at the entire facilities of the district and maybe come up with some recommendations for future student housing. So those are the 4 goals that I'm recommending, and I'll be writing the timeline implementation plan if the board approves those goals on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Business Administrator?
Yeah, real quick, just one item I'd like to update. We have our auditing team, our external auditing team back in district. This started last week, I should say, restarted. They're a little ahead of schedule, so it's great to have them back, and my office is busy providing them with various documents and information as they complete their annual audit. But that's the limit of my report.
Thank you. Okay, committee reports. We'll start with Finance.
The Finance Committee met last Wednesday, September 3rd, from 9:30 to 10:30. Joining me were Ms. Sobolov, Ms. Tyroller, Ms. Stromwall, and Mr. Moffett. We have a very small finance agenda this month, and there's nothing extraordinary. A couple of tuition contracts, in the normal payroll and transfers. And we reviewed them all with Mr. Moffett and all for approval. The other thing that we talked about, and it's something that's going to be coming at us soon, is Mr. Moffett and the business office have been developing, along with the auditors, sort of under their guidance or sort of coaching, is this budget book, which we've never had before. Which seems to, we all got a little preview of it. It's not ready, it's in the final draft stage. But it looks like it's going to bring new levels, I think, of sort of transparency and reporting. It will be available to the public, probably posted on the website or hard copy. It's a thick document, several hundred pages. And it's in the final stages now and will probably be available.
Right, I would say within the month we'll publish it, and we'll submit it to various agencies for review also. But yeah, I would say within this month.
I mean, so I think it's very exciting. I mean, just to be that transparent and to be that sort of thorough in the reporting. I'm looking forward to it and then sharing it with the rest of the board and with the public. That's my report.
Thank you. Jennifer? Come.
Sure. Okay. The Governance and Personnel Committee met on Wednesday, September 3rd from 10:30 to 12:30. In attendance were Dr. Brickell, myself, Vito Gagliardi, Dr. Hernandez, Tom Klupfel, Mr. Moffett, Ruth Tyroller, and Irene Sobolov. During the meeting, Mr. Gagliardi updated the committee on pending legal matters. The committee reviewed all the agenda items for governance and personnel. The committee also discussed the agenda item under grants. As was discussed last month, the Ola Charter School would like to receive funds for items different than what was specified in the resolution at last December's board meeting. As the new resolution explains, the grant administrator has confirmed that the items are within the scope of the grant. The resolution on the agenda, therefore, reflects these new items. And finally, the approval of the contract with the HEA is under Governance and Personnel on the agenda, but that will be discussed in the negotiations committee report. That's everything.
Okay. That leads right into you, Mr. Gold. Would you like to give the negotiation committee report?
Okay. When I say teachers, I mean HEA members. So I'm so happy to report that we finally have an MOA with the HEA for the start of this school year, which is really nice. I want to thank Monica and Tom for their long hours, their rationality, something I never had, and their empathy for the school district's parents and the teachers. I want to thank the HEA for their civility and perseverance. I can only imagine how difficult it is to negotiate when the needs of your family and the needs of Hoboken students are in the balance. I'm proud of this contract because it provides for greater cooperation among the board, administrators, HEA members, and parents. So I want to go over the terms. It's a 2-year contract. This will allow the new superintendent time to settle in and the impact of the city's charter schools on enrollment and the district's finances to become more certain. Averages are a horrible way to present information, but sometimes you have to do that when you talk about a contract. On the average, teachers will receive a 2.8% wage increase and a 2% increase in stipends and hourly rates. The BOE now will be responsible for paying for non-resident teacher parking during school hours. Since the financial responsibility for parking is now with the Hoboken Board of Education, I would like to gently suggest to the city of Hoboken that during the school day, free or greatly reduced parking be provided to all teachers in all of the Hoboken school districts. So for all the teachers in all of Hoboken, I think the mayor and city council could really do a mitzvah. This would help not only the Hoboken Board of Education, but also all those teachers who have given so much to our children. So what is the benefits to the community? The first is we're providing our teachers and our clerks and other support staff with a fair wage. The second is we've reduced the number of half-days for our students, so parents won't have to have the inconvenience of picking their child up for an extra half a day. We have increased the amount of parent-teacher conference time. There'll be more conferences, and they will last longer. And we have established additional time for our staff to assist our students after school. So once a week, a teacher will devote an extra half an hour to coming up with remedial or other work for the students. This will, since our teachers are the experts, they're going to come up with a plan that will both meet the needs of our students and really rely on their expertise. Now, after a number of adjustments to teacher stipends, the cost of this contract will be under the budgeted 2%. So this is one of those great cases where we could be under our budget for the teacher contract, and the teachers can have average 2.8% wage increase. I don't believe in win-wins, but I guess this is one of them. So again, I would like to thank everyone for their help, and I think this is going to be a good year. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Irene, athletics?
Athletics and Performing Arts met on September 3rd. In attendance was myself, Dr. Hernandez, Ms. Evans, and Mr. Cookville. Student participation in the fall sports was discussed to date. 195 students have signed up to participate in soccer, cross-country, cheering, tennis, volleyball, and football. You can check on the district website for full schedules, for full practice schedules and the game schedules. MSG football will be airing the Red Wing football games on msgvarsity.com and then re-airing them on channel 614, which is an interactive station on cable TV, which also has all kinds of other interesting videos from Hoboken High, like Poetry Out Loud and different shows. The band camp was discussed, kind of an update. There were 25 students, grades 7 through 12, that attended the camp, and I'd like to thank again the staff that volunteered their time to provide that opportunity to the students. And then just something on the agenda, I wanted to note that 3 new programs are starting for the junior high school, and that'll be fall and spring swimming for the junior high, and spring basketball. So that's really nice for them.
Thank you. Jean Marie, Facilities and Wellness?
Facilities and Wellness Committee met on September 3rd. Attendees was myself as the chair, Tim Callaghan, the Director of Facilities, and John Paproda from Sodexo Food Services. Under food service, John Paproda reported that 2 Sodexo employees have resigned, so they'll be hiring 2 more staff, but they'll need to go through the security and fingerprinting process, so it'll take a couple more weeks. Breakfast meals will be served to all children. The breakfast prices are as follows. For elementary, the reduced meal students will pay 30 cents. Full pay is $1.50, and free meals are free. At the high school, reduced meal plan students will pay 30 cents. Full pay is $1.75, and the existing free meal is free. The menus this year are more restrictive based on more stringent government standards. No full sugar Snapple will be available, but Diet Snapple will. No sugary soft drinks, but Diet Coke will be available. 100% juice or water bottles are also being served. Breads are required to be 50% whole grain. The culinary arts program will be coordinating with Sodexo to purchase food in bulk, for example, flour, sugar, and that will be saving some money. Sodexo is looking into state regulations regarding providing dinners to students who participate in after-school sports at the high school. For more on facilities in the schools, at Brant, the scaffolding has been erected since June 2012. Tim Callaghan met with the SDA, that's the School Development Association, and they have fast-tracked the project and assigned a project manager.
Thank God.
Yeah, we haven't had a project manager, now we have one. The SDA revised the scope to include sandblasting and at the base of the building, as well as 2 alleyways and brickwork. Once the work goes out to bid with the contractor, which will be about another month, they will re-inspect the facade and start the repairs. They will remove the old scaffolding and erect targeted scaffolding. At Demarest, the old boiler will be removed and the new boiler will be installed in mid-September. 6 classrooms were put in use, 5 on the 3rd floor and an additional classroom on the 4th floor. The classroom moves availed an additional pre-K classroom on the 1st floor. At Connors, the gym floor was refinished and the walls were painted. There were 2 additional pre-K classrooms prepared, and the water pumps were moved from below street level up to surface at grade. At Calabro, the building had air conditioner compressor replaced. The building does not need infrastructure improvements at this time. At the high school, there will be a fence installed on Jefferson Street outside the brick wall near the memorial that's in front of the JFK field. The shady area and memorial have been abused by dogs and dog walkers, and there's a worn, patchy strip of grass that runs along the field house on Jefferson Street, and that will be filled with concrete, so it'll be safer for egress and ingress. The high school field surfacing is coming to an end of its useful life, and the district is submitting to the State Department of Education for approval to proceed to resurface it. Likely it will be approved, however, it won't necessarily be funded. Discussions on funding will be discussed in the Finance Committee. At Wallace, the library was moved to from the 2nd to the 3rd floor, and its usability was increased by adding more computers, such as there are Mac machines and PCs installed. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And this month have the Curriculum and Programs Committee report. Due to budget cuts, we no longer have a director of curriculum from last year, which I'm sure many of the parents are aware. She was who was the administrator on the running the curriculum committee with the chair. So now we have a nice new arrangement that was really made for an exciting meeting. Ms. Formerly Interdonato, who is now Ms. Diacunto, who is the supervisor of math and science, and Mr. Bartlett, who is the supervisor of English Language Arts and Humanities, are going to alternately be the administrative representative at the meeting. And we had a really nice meeting with them to just discuss how it's going to work and what we're going to discuss, because it's slightly different than when you have an administrator who's directly attached to agenda items. So they're going to alternate. The focus of the meeting will be not only to talk about agenda items and curriculum writing, but also to put spotlights on new projects and creative teaching that is happening in the district. The meeting time, the administration is considering which Tuesday to adopt. Initially, we were the fourth Tuesday of the month, which takes the pressure off of having it during the heavy committee meeting week prior to the board meeting. And the meeting, as it has always been, is 5:30 to 7. 5:30 to 6 will be closed for committee members only in case there's personnel or related items that aren't ready for the public, because they're telling us things that they're still figuring out. But 6 to 7, as it has been, will be open to the public, and parents can join to hear about new things, and it's nice. And the idea is to try to make sure that the new chair, which I'll talk about in a minute, will highlight who's going to be there at the next meeting, so you'll know what the emphasis is. Obviously, for Mr. Bartlett, it'll be more about his department versus if it's Ms. I'm going to get it wrong, I'm sorry, she just changed her name. Then it'll be more about math and science. So they're going to work very hard, Donna and Charles, to beef up the website. We talked about the new Teacher Institute, which sounded like everyone did a great job. Special thanks to Ms. Pick and Ms. Gullah, who presented on the Danielson model, Ms. Jennifer Diacunto, who presented on Genesis, Mr. Fustiu and Mr. Shannon from Connors, presented on data and how to use effectively to improve student performance. Ms. Diacunto, formerly Ms. Interdonato, presented on curriculum networking, and Mr. Vispignani on the mentor program. So the mentor program has changed, more goal-oriented for our new teachers. So that was interesting to hear about. And also, if you want to see examples of the Park Prep tests, I have the link on the website for the board members. Interesting. The CPR AED is now, just of interest to many of you might be, is now a required course for graduation for all children who are entering as freshmen in high school from 2014 to 2015. So that's kind of an interesting thing. It's part of, it's an offshoot of a Jersey law, which I believe is Janet's law, about a very unfortunate incident where a child died of a heart attack because there was no one immediately around to help with the required equipment in the school. So this way, all high school students will actually be able to perform CPR. So I thought that was interesting. And the roundtable discussed tracking at the elementary schools and changes at Wallace, and just said, look, we've made a lot of changes. It's too much for our, everybody's trying to please everybody, and we really need an analysis of this. And I actually think Mr. Bartlett and Ms. Interdonato was very excited about actually doing that. And we talked about strengthening some of our programs we have to line up better with the county context, such as the science fair and the spelling bee, which I'm a big fan of. And just want to say we're really lucky to have Mr. Bartlett and Ms. Interdonato as district employees. They're very dedicated, engaged, talented educational leaders, and it was really wonderful to have them at the meeting. So I encourage the public to join us from 6 to 7, because it's a really fun meeting, and I think it's a good one to go to. So just, Dr. Burkell suggested that since I'm board president, I should chair a committee. So after 5 years, I'm giving up curriculum, and Monica Stromwall has stepped up to take the chair, so she'll be doing this report in the future. Okay, so that concludes reports. And now I believe we move on to agenda item comments from...
I believe now it's the questions for the board.
Do you want to do questions for this first?
Well, normally that's the process.
Okay,
We ask
we can.
questions on the committee reports.
I thought we did it after agenda, but let's do that now. I think it's better too. Okay, so let's start. Peter, do you want to start?
Yeah, please. In terms of the scaffolding, because it's been one of my favorite subjects here.
Yeah.
So it's been up since January 2012. We've been charged every month that it's been up. I think the last contract we passed with the company that erected the scaffolding, it equals out to almost $200,000 in 3 years that it's been up. I don't know why the SDA dragged their feet that long, because it's been ridiculous. I understand it has to be up because portions of the building were coming up, but so unfortunately the SDA certainly dragged their feet too long, but I'm glad there is some movement on it. So I don't know if Mr. Callaghy, Ms. Mitchell, in a meeting told you of a timeline of when actually the work is going to begin and the scaffolding is going to be cut or not. So how many more months are we looking at the scaffolding being up before it gets, I guess, cut down to targeted areas like you said? Did we do that?
Well, he said it would probably go to contract in about 30 days, so when the contractor can start, I really couldn't give you an
Mr.
answer.
Moffett?
Oh,
I don't have an update for you. I could get one for you. That's not a
Please, for the
problem.
next meeting, please. And then also, if you can also get an update, because I know there was a misunderstanding, and it was that the SDA would reimburse us for the scaffolding to be up for that long, and then they were going to only reimburse us for a portion that it's been up. But if you can get us an estimate about how much they're going to reimburse us, because it has been up for 3 years, we have been paying money for this, and my understanding was that the SDA was going to reimburse us. So hopefully for the next meeting, we can have that. Please.
Yes.
Yes.
And then so please. Yeah, no.
Okay, as the facilities chair, yeah, I've held the meeting about 20 times, I think, since I've been a board member, so you're welcome to come and
Right.
ask questions. Thank you.
But you don't send out the agendas for what you're going to talk about in the committee meetings, so certainly I can ask questions here in public as well, after you presented your facilities committee. So anyway, moving on.
Thank you. Do you have another
Yes, I have one more
item?
question. Dr. Burkell, in terms of the CUSAC report, thank you for sending that to us, because after the last meeting, we weren't sure. And then you did send it to us the week of the last meeting, and it basically stated that it was released to the district on June 16th, and it was supposed to be reported at the next meeting, but for some reason, maybe because we were appealing the process, it wasn't reported until the next meeting. But something else that it mentioned on that letter was that we were supposed to have a district improvement plan by September 1st. And in your report, you just said that we needed it by November 1st.
I received, let me speak into this. I received word that that's been extended by my request because it was under appeal.
Okay. And the district improvement plan that's coming will specifically focus on the curriculum and instruction, where we did the poorest on, unfortunately. And that district improvement plan would have to be approved by the board?
That improvement plan needs to be approved at the hopefully October meeting, and then submitted by November 1st as well.
And then at that meeting, you're going to be addressing what specifically, I guess, since the score was so low, what the needs are to get that score a little higher for the next CUSAC report, correct?
That's the job of the committee to work on. We have to work with the county office and with people in the State Department, whom I know at this point, who will assist us in putting that together. And I'll report to you. You'll have a copy of it, when indeed you approve it as a board, hopefully in October, so we can submit it on time.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions, Peter?
I'm good.
Francis Rhodes Kearns? You're good? Anybody on this side for questions regarding reports? Questions regarding reports? No? Okay. And I just would like to comment that we get a lot of emails from concerned citizens that live in the Brant vicinity, and it's been very frustrating to every board member at the length of time it has taken for the School Development Authority to do what's necessary. And this is one of the burdens of being a former Abbott district, in that we're not allowed to do projects on our own. We're not allowed to fund them. They all have to be through the state and through this SDA. So heartfelt apologies that it's up, but we are at the behest of how quickly the state moves. And I do understand to a certain degree there is a lot of state tax dollars that come into this district, and this is another way, I guess, that they look at it control. So, there's two, but the unfortunate problem is that they move very, very slowly. I think there was, 6 projects they approved last year? It was something very low. Someone, I forget who mentioned that. but it's a very low amount, and when you consider how many districts there are in the state and how many school buildings, that's a scarily low number to have had them approved for last year, so.
And to add on to that, Ms. Tyroller, because I understand that the SDA completely took their time, but I think we need to be aggressive towards them to say, look, you guys took 3 years to come and fix the problem, because unfortunately we had to go through you. Now, can you please reimburse us for the scaffolding being?
Yes, and I have faith that, I think that that has been an ongoing discussion in facilities, and Dr. Toback was pretty persistent with this, and I'd appreciate if you take up that torch for us and for our citizens, okay? So,
Ruth,
sure, certainly.
I just wanted to comment on, we were talking about the park, the new test that's coming out.
Oh, yes.
And just for the members of the public who are not familiar with that, and even parents who don't understand it, could we just explain a little
the park
explanation of
testing?
how it's replacing the HESPA
Certainly.
and how everybody has to pass the
Certainly.
park? There are no alternative
Certainly.
routes.
Now, of course, I'm sure most of you that have children, no matter where they go to school, as long as it's a public entity, you know about PARC. But for everyone listening, the NJ Ask is what we're used to. That was a test that was administered from 3rd to 8th grade in math and language arts, and also there's a component that's science that's done twice. I'm looking at the teachers at 4th grade and 8th grade, correct? And then there was the HESPA, which was the high school state test that was administered to juniors. And then you also see that happening if somebody fails, they take it their senior year again, that you take again. What the state has replaced, and this is all over the country, is with PARC, which is actually K-12 testing. So this is mandatory state testing for kindergartners through 12th graders. So this year is the first year that the state is requiring PARC testing for every child in the state that goes to public school under this new model. So as far as parents are concerned, the NJ Ask went away. So your kids are still just taking one state assessment that's a big bubble test that they're doing, but it's actually computer-based. High school kids, they're going to be assessed yearly instead of just the HESPA. You will hear reference to HESPA over the course of this year. It's about the seniors and our very, very small cohort that is retesting on HESPA. Everybody else is taking PARC. And the important things to understand is every district in the state, whether you're a charter district, a small district, or a big district, they're all gearing up because all of this is done on computers. So if you imagine with the same type of rules about the entire state wants to test 6th graders at the same time, want to test 4th graders at the same time so that, one kid doesn't have to take a test during a hurricane. You know what I mean? So it's a big effort, and I'm sure all the districts in town are gearing up and having issues with it. So, but don't worry, we've been preparing for a couple of years and getting ready for the transition, and we were a beta site. So our educational leaders and our excellent teachers are already in better shape than districts that weren't beta sites. Was that good for you?
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Okay, I get wordy and I apologize. Okay, so that's what PARC is. And there's going to be a lot of information about it, right, Dr. Brickell, as we approach. So don't worry, you won't be in the dark about it. So. Okay, so now with that, we're going to move on to public agenda items. And again, I really want to apologize for how long that session took. I'll be better with my estimate the next time. Okay.
So we have
Mr.
two
Moffitt?
speakers tonight, and
Okay.
the first one is Patricia Waiters.
Good evening.
I'm not going to look, I have a hoarse throat tonight. I was just at the freeholders meeting, holding people accountable, so just please bear with me. And I know y'all happy because I could talk fast tonight and finish.
Oh, no, don't. Be gentle.
Just a few things. The teachers, it says rehire. First of all, I'm not going to go to each page, so I don't expect all the answers right now, so I'm going to just go do it. I'm going to just give a condensed version tonight. Just for future references, Ms. Rhodes Kearns, you brought it to the attention that the teachers wasn't supposed to let go due to straight state legislation language and the law, that it was not the right thing to do. With that being said, I want to use that as an example. When you're new to the board and you sit there and you vote just to vote for a buddy, this is what happened. If you do your homework, you can still hold integrity. Okay, so don't say yes if you don't know what you're voting about. And I think that was very careless, you know, to have those teachers come up here and thinking they terminated, okay, and you did something that was against the law. And instead of covering up your mistakes, just say next time we'll look into it. That's all I'm saying. This is what happened when you say, I got to say yes for the majority regardless of what it is. So I hope you guys hold allegiance in the future and don't do that again, please. And I'm hearing all your committee reports. The last 4 years I've been coming to meetings. I see new faces in the house. Everyone knows it's election slowly approaching. Anyway, Pat Wade is here. Listen, I hear all of the committee reports and I never hear Fran or Peter. Are you guys invited? Okay? Now I hope so that you make yourself available, because it's not fair. I'm hearing this committee report, that committee report, and in meetings, period, all around. That's why I got hoarse tonight. It's really troubling to the public. These meetings are our meetings. Some of us depend on these meetings to come to a meeting, salute the flag like I was bringing to Mr. Council here, and then you go into closed session. It is really rude, and lately I've been seeing that. When you change the chair, like the president stepped down for, we don't know why. I mean, he said his time was up, but I mean, there's like you get response. I got 1,000 requests coming to me, the people open. Why did the president just step down, but he's still on the board? And that's a good question, because I'm not running with the rumors I heard, but I opened it too, so I could get the real facts. I'm not gonna put it on the record tonight, but I will at the next meeting. With that being said, again, a doctorate degree, for somebody to hold a doctorate degree, just use a little common sense. When you give a public meeting, to sit here and throw abbreviations at the public, I mean, not myself, but other people don't know abbreviations. Even in public speaking, say what you're talking about. I know BOE is Board of Ed, but maybe the next person don't. And when Mr. Gold said his report, he said all abbreviations. We don't know what these committees are. You know, just for, you know, future, just could you please be more specific? The last page, rental fees. My son is a student in Wallace. 2 years ago, he couldn't go to no after school programs or nothing because it was like extremely high. And I always ask the question, where do this money go? Where do this type of money go? It's a lot of money, and I know you can't just take outside money and plug it in an agenda item or plug it in the budget. I go to many a budget hearings on the state, county, and local level, and that's a good question. I want to know where all of these enrichment programs fees go to rent your facilities. When our students is in the school, they shouldn't have to rent it, and lately that's what's been happening. Now I got 21 mothers waiting on hold because I told them I had to exclude myself about, I was an early childhood mother on the board, and their kids is not in the school, and they from housing authority. But it breaks their heart to see someone rich, and I mean, that's fortunate with money, to have their kids in school, but they on a waiting list. And those grants come from the state. And I looked into that myself. It's really disturbing. I spoke to Miss Capola, Miss Nellie Molina, whatever her name is, and it's wrong. 21 mothers got 3- and 4-year-old kids home talking about a waiting list. I cannot wait to take that one to the state. The waiting list. And these are Abbott mothers. Most of them get public assistance, and their kids is not in our school system. Okay? So it's really troubling. I'm going to wrap it up. Miss Bucknight, it's really disturbing. Just tonight is the first time I'm hearing that she was let go. And then when he mentioned the superintendent's report, he mentioned that curriculum or whatever, that was the lowest score. I mean, even if you wanted to let her go, I would have let her go, and don't make it seem like those two things linked together. That lady was excellent. She have kindness in order. I have not seen nobody in this whole Board of Ed, and I'm keeping it real with you, did what Tamika did in kindness. They used that school as a segregated school. They didn't even want to be bothered with them. Tamika came in here. Some of them kids didn't even know how to read. They know how to read. They could say their ABCs. So I'm just putting it on the record. This lady did not do no bad job. I don't know these people here that's going to replace her, okay? But I'm used to this. I'm used to that, and it's getting real mind-bothering. I will work with whoever comes to this district, but give Tamika credit when credit was due. She was excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waiters.
The last speaker is Brian Murray. Brian.
Go Elks.
Hi, Brian Murray.
Did you hear me?
I'm sorry?
I said go Elks.
Go Elks. Little League champions.
Yeah.
Brian Murray, Maxwell Lane. I am speaking on item agenda number 9.18, approval of district goals. I asked the board to reject these goals summarily. There's two main issues I have with these goals. One is that the superintendent, firstly, is willing to provide a timeline and implementation plan after the approval. Really, if you're going to judge the goals, you're going to judge them fully with a timeline and implementation plan to see if they work with your overall vision. So you can't really just have, well, hey, these are the goals, and then I'll let you know when the timeline and what the implementation is, because that simply doesn't work from a high level. You have to have the whole picture. But really, secondly, my biggest concern with these set of goals is, we're here with bottom-ranked schools, a bottom-ranked high school, the 9th most dangerous district in the state. Those aren't my stats, those are printed stats.
Hey, just let him, he has 5 minutes.
We're faced with district improvement plans. We're a district in need. We have major budget issues, as you know, continual major budget issues. We have facilities issues. And these are the goals. We're 99 yards away from a touchdown, and these goals don't move the ball a foot. They kind of remind me of the New York Giants right now. We need to demand better goals, bigger goals, to improve those real problems that we have, not just these little things that you can check off. We need specific metrics. Specific metrics on how we're improving and where we're improving, and not just, did we implement something? Actually, did we implement something did we prepare and implement for a test that we actually have to do anyway because it's state required? But how about real goals on addressing some of our needs? So I would ask you to have the superintendent go back to the drawing board and actually look at, I know he's new here, and actually look at some of the major problems that we're facing as a district and say, hey, maybe we can make real improvements in some of these goals with specific timelines and a specific implementation plan, and then buy into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
I did have an additional speaker approach and sign.
Certainly.
Ms. Lynn Dansker.
Hi, my name is Lynn Dansker, 1313 Park Avenue. Dr. Burkell, and I hope I pronounced it correctly. With all due respect, I find it quite interesting that you were very transparent in giving us the scores for 4 of the 5 key areas that the QSEC scores are rated on. And of course, you talked about it being between 96 and 100%. But what you failed to mention, and with all due respect, we need to have some transparency here. The area that we did not do well is in the instruction and program score. And that score, sir, was 45 points out of 100. Between 70 and
Ms.
100.
Danziger, you direct to here. I know it's strange, but
that's
if you
okay.
wouldn't mind.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Between 80 and 100 points is considered satisfactory. Anything below 50 is considered to be below. Is anything below 50% in any of those 5 key areas, the district is required to undergo an in-depth evaluation and must develop and implement an improvement program. This is good news for us, because maybe now the taxpayer hopefully will get some answers why our district continues to perform so poorly. And Madam President, you have chaired the Instruction and Program Committee now for the past 5 years. 5 years ago, actually 4 years ago, in April 2010, according to the Department of Education, the Instruction and Program score for CUSAC was 87 points out of 100. Today, in June of 2014, we're now at 45. So how did we lose 42 points in scoring? Ruth Tyroller is one of the 7 board members of the Kids First team. She has stepped down as the chair of the Instruction and Program Committee. Appointed now is Ms. Monica Stromwell, who is also one of the 7 board members of the Kids First team.
No.
Or was appointed by the Board of Education, which the majority of the Board of Education is in the Kids First team. I stand corrected. I apologize. So, in closing on this particular point, the fact that there has been no transparency and telling the public what those scores actually are when they were supposed to be reported back in June, but because you went through an appealing process, for some reason, I guess you didn't have to let those scores be publicized, and the appeal was denied by the state. So finally, we might find out what is actually going on in our school district. And then the last agenda point is in reference to what Ms. Jennifer Evans mentioned in regards to a grant. And there is a point here, point number 13, where there is going to be a vote on whether to deny the dual language school the $28,000+ that they're supposed to get from a grant from the Hurricane Sandy. And it's because the request for reimbursement for technology items differed from what was on the original list. So I would like to know what the difference in the original list is and what supposedly the new list was. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I?
About the text, I'll be there. Excuse me, Dr. Brickell, would you like to respond?
Well, I was wondering, Dr. Brickell, if Madam Chair, if that's okay with you?
Yes, you may ask a question.
Yes. Mr. Murray came up to the mic and asked, how you came up to the goals and things like that, since you haven't been here, I guess, you've just been here in a few months. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to clarify how you came up to the floor.
Basically, I didn't suggest the goals when I first got here without meeting with my entire administrative council and asking them what they thought some of the issues were, and putting together the goals based on my big summer meeting, which occurs in August. And that's how we develop these goals.
Okay.
Okay. Any
Madam
other
Chair?
remarks before I go?
Yes,
Because I'll close
I-
remarks.
Yeah.
Fran?
Well, since it was directed at me about the chairs, the committees, being on the committee, I'd like to respond to that. Ms. Wade is sure. Correct, I'm not on the committees. I'm not a chair of any committee. I've never been appointed since Kid First. Came into as a chair of a committee. I'm not, so I can't determine the time. No, as a chair, not a committee. No, I'm not a chair. I haven't been a chair in 4 years. What are you talking about, Irene? I'm not a chair.
Okay,
Let
wait,
me
let her
finish,
finish.
Irene.
That's right.
I'm speaking. So the chair determines the times of the meetings, okay? Since I work during the day, many of these meetings, a lot of the key meetings like governance and personnel, finance, they're held during the day. I work during the day. I can't get off work to make the meetings on a regular basis, so I didn't ask to be on those committees. If I was a chair, I would have the committees at a time where I could make it, correct, but I'm not appointed as a chair to any committees. That's why I'm not on them. Most of them are during the day, and there's one in the evening, which doesn't work for me. But that's it. But I am appointed by the New Jersey school boards. So I'm on the Special Education Committee, so I'm doing my part there, and I'm also the legislative delegate for the New Jersey school boards. So I'm on that committee. On the state level, so that you know, those are the committees that I'm on, but not here on the board, for those reasons.
Thank you for clarifying. Other,
I did have one question I wanted to call.
okay, Irene?
I wondered if you could give an update on the pre-K. Is this work? Can you give an update on the pre-K list? There's not 21, I don't believe that was the number.
Yeah, no, the wait list right now has one child on it.
For the pre-K,
I just wanted, I knew the number wasn't 21 that I had heard, so I wanted him to clarify.
Madam President, with all due respect, I don't want to expose people's names.
No, you don't have to.
No, tomorrow I'm going to give it to you, the name,
Okay.
the name of the child, and the age and birthday.
no,
You'll
not
have
to
it
me. I
tomorrow.
shouldn't,
No,
the
that
board
goes
members
to-
should not have the
I don't-
names of
All right,
our
I'll give it to
children.
the new
It
superintendent.
goes to the, is that correct,
Thank
Dr. Burkell? Yeah, to the new
Yeah, I know through
superintendent.
experience. I sat on that board for
Yeah.
3 years. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much, Patty. Okay, any other comments from this side? Ooh. From this side? Okay, I just wanted to make one comment before we move on to close comments. And this is not by any means an excuse. This is one explanation that I just would like to have out there. An interesting thing within the CUSAC when we read that, the report on the curriculum and portion and what was discussed as the reason for the low score, talked about individualized lesson plans, and this was a big part of why we had a low score. In order to alleviate, 5 years ago, when we started an aggressive replacement of textbooks and materials, they were considerably out of date, and that's very important for our teachers to have up-to-date materials to be using that are modern, that have the modern elements, that do the things. So we, in a very short period of time, have acquired many, many new textbooks. And the largest two changes to the district are always in your core subjects, which is, and I'm sorry, I keep looking at the teachers because they're the teachers that are doing it, are the language arts series, which is the younger grades is Reading Wonders, which is what's called a balanced literacy series, where it's leveled readers, and also the Singapore Math, which is a very important, and it's beloved, and it's a great program. So we actually, in order to implement it in a way that the teachers were able to absorb 2 new series in 2 of their major responsibilities for making sure their children were learning, was to actually have the same lesson plans that all the teachers were using, to let them get used to the new series, get used to the new teaching methodologies, in order to also make sure that there was consistency throughout the district. It was actually a plan that was put into place. And the idea was, let's get everybody comfortable with this, and then once we're beyond that first year, then the teachers will be able to bring into their own creativity and blend their other reports that they do, but in order to make sure that we have consistency throughout the district. And I think that it did contribute to the low score, but I still actually stand behind that decision because I think it allowed the teachers to really understand the methodologies and practice with the methodologies without the pressure of having to write all new lesson plans for their classes with new materials in front of them. So I just wanted to point that out because it did really hurt us, but it was actually a planned decision, and I still think it was a good decision. And I just thought that that was important to highlight, and that there was a tremendous amount of expectation on our teachers in professional development and learning so much taking on a whole new curriculum, the Common Core, all the things that we were doing, that it just wasn't, that we didn't want to impose the actual addition of, rewriting all their lesson plans, because teachers have lesson plans that they use from year to year. So I just wanted to point that out, because that was a contributing factor to the score. So just for no, you will do it at public comment if you want to make another remark. I'm sorry, that's the rules. Okay, so now,
Can I just ask a question to follow up on that?
yes.
I think, just to clarify, you said, I stand behind the decision, and you used "we" a lot. That was not your decision.
Oh, no. It was, I'm sorry. When I say we, I
You're speaking on
apologize.
behalf of-
I'm referencing on behalf of what the curriculum director and the superintendent at the time. It was a plan developed by them. Thank you. Good point. Okay, we have a tape. Okay, so now we'll move on to the vote on agenda items.
Is this a consent agenda?
Yeah, can I move that we approve the consent agenda?
Can I?
Well,
I would like to pull an item.
Okay. What item would you like to poll, Mr. Gold?
Excuse me,
Ms. Waiters? Yeah.
I'd like to pull item 1301 for a separate vote and discussion.
Any other items to poll? Then let's do a consent agenda first
But
on...
may I ask a question about an agenda item before we vote on the consent agenda?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's ask you a question now.
Yes. Curriculum 8.01, approval of curriculum writing. I've asked about this course when it was approved. So has the course began, this Backstage Elements course?
Yes.
So it has begun. So I was just curious, shouldn't the curriculum be in place before the actual course begins?
Typically, yes.
Because if it's begun, what type of curriculum are they using?
Well, this began written over the summer, correct?
Yes.
Oh, so it was written over the summer then?
Yeah, so
Okay.
she started the course...
Well, it wasn't on the agenda item, that's why. I was just curious why we're approving a curriculum writing when the course already began. So there should have been a date that this was...
It was omitted back in June. It wasn't submitted in for approval. So right, I'm sure that the person writing this curriculum was probably started.
We approved the course in June. Remember when the
Right.
course was there? And they left Ms. Miller off it was an omission off the roster of courses that were being written over the summer.
Oh, I see. So the curriculum is already written for the course then? Okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't writing a curriculum after the course began.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because there's no date on here, so
Right.
it was a little confusing.
It wasn't on that
Yeah.
big list that we did in the
Madam Chair,
spring.
before they went to the tape, I just wanted to also address something that was addressed to me at the agenda items by a member of the public also.
Okay.
Okay? And it was about the teacher layoffs, Ms. Waiters, and correct that we were supposed to be following the guidelines of the SDA regulations, and I was told that it was the county who approved it, and that's why that happened. So I also wanted to ask Vito or whoever I need to ask to please provide me or the board, all of us, with documents of that you may have about that approval, showing that approval, how they approved it, because I'd like to see that also, if it's okay. That's public record, correct?
Yeah, the documents are the budget approval with that line item zeroed out, so that any
Right.
member of the public has seen that, actually.
Right. No, I mean the document saying that the county approved
The
it,
county approval of the budget.
knowing saying that the SDA, that the layoffs, approving the layoffs. That's what I would like to see, the documents approving the layoffs by the county. How would I do that? Do I have to Oprah the county? Do we get that as a
I don't think you need
district?
to Oprah the county. You have the county approval of the zeroing out of that on your item on your budget. So whatever the business office got from the county when the budget was submitted would reflect that.
Right, but I mean that they knew that they were okay with us laying them off.
Correct.
That they said it was okay. That's what I want to know, the document showing that the county said it's okay.
Correct.
Okay. So, all right, I'll ask the county. Thank you.
I think I said specifically that you don't need to ask the county.
I'll ask anyway. I want to see documentation, that's all.
So with that, so we have a request to poll 13.01 for a separate vote and discussion. Any other items? Okay, then do I have a motion for a consent agenda for the rest of the items?
There was motion by Mr. Klubfeld.
Okay.
It was consent agenda minus 1301. What was the other one, 8.21?
No, just 13.01. There was just a question.
And we have
about it.
9.22 as amended, right? So we,
And 9.22 as amended, as discussed.
That's in the consent?
It's
part
in
of
the
the consent.
consent. So, can you vote on it?
Madam President?
I cannot.
Okay.
Yes?
So if the consent agenda includes 9.22 as amended, as discussed in executive session, I think we should articulate to the benefit of
Yes.
the public what that amendment is.
Would you,
Well, it just so happens, Madam President, I have that amendment
I
right
would
here.
love, that would be wonderful if you would articulate that on our behalf.
Thank you, Madam President. All right, for the benefit of reminding the board and the benefit of providing this information to the public, as a result of the executive session and some discussions with representation of the HEA, I would draw the board's attention to agenda item 9.22, approval of contract settlement with the Hoboken Education Association and Hoboken Board of Education. Specifically, in the first paragraph where it says resolved, there is a reference to the MOA being approved subject to the development of final contract language. After the word language, the following was inserted as a result of those discussions. Quote, and sidebar on parking reimbursement for up to 160 non-resident employees annually at $200 each, and for further discussion if that amount is to be exceeded, and that closes the insert. You go back to the original text, to be mutually developed by the parties, and the rest of the agenda item remains intact. So the agenda as adopted for action by the board would include that amendment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. So, we had a motion for consent.
motion was Mr. Klubfeld. I was just looking for a second.
Oh, second.
Call roll.
Cole?
Mr. Biancamano? Aye. Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Dr. Gold?
Yes?
Mr. Klubfeld?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes Kearns?
Yes.
Ms. Sobola?
Yes, but abstain on 9.22?
Ms. Stromwall?
Yes.
And Ms. Tyroller?
Yes. Okay, so item 13.01. Well, now for discussion.
Why don't I move that we approve item 13.01?
I second.
I'm sorry.
I'm putting it on as a motion.
Oh, I can't second.
To discuss it, right?
Yeah.
I second it.
Liam?
Any discussion?
Any
Okay.
discussion?
I want to discuss it. Item 1301 talks about a modification to the Hoboken dual language charter school allocation. There's a lot of history behind it, and I think it should be clear what happened before we decide to vote or not vote on it. I'm going to try to give you the reasons why you should not vote on it. Hoboken Public School District applied for and received a grant from the United Arab Emirates Republic. Only the Hoboken School District received this grant. OLA approached the Hoboken Board of Education and asked that we share the grant with them for specific items damaged in Sandy, specific items. They provided a list of damaged equipment and the associated costs. Based upon this list and the costs, the board prepared a resolution to reimburse OLA for the damaged equipment in the amount of approximately $28,000. The vote was 4 for the resolution, which was to give OLA the money, and 4 against. My vote was the deciding vote to reimburse Ola for the equipment damaged by Sandy. I felt it was very important to pay for the damaged equipment so Ola could use the money that they would have paid for that damaged equipment for other purposes. And another purpose could have been an improvement in their technology. The intent, and I know what the intent was never to pay for additional technology, but rather to place Ola on an equal financial footing with the other charter schools. This was the sole intent of the resolution, and it was written that way. However, rather than submit an invoice for the damaged equipment, Ola now wishes us to pass a resolution that would ignore the original request and use the money for technology upgrades. I am against this resolution for 2 reasons. First, it goes against the original request that was made, and that request was solely to remedy specific Sandy damage. And second, by providing technology funds to only one of 3 charter schools, it puts us in the position of favoring a specific charter school over 2 others. The fact is, we were all damaged by Hurricane Sandy, and so I think we should vote no on this resolution, but keep the other resolution open. If we are given invoices for the damage that was incurred, we definitely should pay it. So I hope my fellow board members vote no on this. Thank you.
Other comments?
Why is it on the agenda?
Because the full board approved, well, this isn't my
All right,
comment.
how
but-
did it get on the agenda? This is a new resolution, correct? So who put the new resolution on the agenda?
I guess the Governance and Personnel Committee, right?
Governance and Personnel
Yes.
recommended this
So you guys are
resolution?
recommending
You're
this for board
recommending this
approval?
because you put this on the agenda, correct?
It's on the agenda, and each member
So it's
should...
recommended by the Governance and Personnel. That's the only way it can get on the agenda, am I correct?
That's correct.
It has, how does it get on the agenda?
That's
Explain, how did it get on the agenda then? How did this resolution get on the agenda? Thank you, that's all.
Okay,
Explain.
Madam President?
May I?
What is the big mystery?
May I, Fran? The discussion in governance and personnel was that because this was a modified, that the board, by a 5-4 vote, approved the resolution to give the original resolution. And we felt in governance and personnel that this was a modification to that, and because the full board had made a decision on the first resolution, that the full board should have the opportunity to make the decision on the second.
So you're recommending this resolution?
Well, it says on the resolution, the board has determined that the items currently requested by OLA as set forth on the list dated September 9th are consistent with the purpose of the grant.
Correct.
That's what it says on the
Right.
resolution.
So there was
Me as a board member believe this to be a recommendation by our governance and personnel, like everything else on this agenda.
I don't understand I'm not sure I understand
I'm
your
just
question,
asking.
She's asking how it got on the agenda. Did everybody in governance...
We're recommending
I'm guessing the
this.
majority of the members on governance and personnel agree that it should be on the
But that
agenda.
actually, I'm telling you, that actually was not what we decided in governance and personnel, that this was an item that should be voted on by the full board. And because we had difference of opinions, and we felt that, I feel like it's one thing if governance and personnel, if all people are in 100% agreement, then I would call it. But I think the spirit of it was that the full board should have the opportunity to vote and decide on this, just like the first resolution, because it's an amendment to a resolution we already approved, and we felt that was
Recommended by your-
a
With all due
different
respect, Madam
flavor.
Chair, I wish it wasn't on the agenda.
But I don't
But
understand.
you understand where the confusion comes in, Irene,
I
where it
don't, I don't
says
un-
where
I-
the board has determined the items...
Oh, but that's good. But it will say that after the vote occurs. That's what all resolutions say, right? Because once the vote occurs, that's what.
Right, but the way I read it-
majority.
No, what this means is that the money from the grant has to be spent on specific things. You can't go use it for textbooks. So Mr. Moffett contacted the grant administrators and said, this was the original list of items. this is not what they want the money for anymore. Here's the new list. Is this consistent with the purpose of the grant? And the grant administrator said, yes.
And it was
But we
determined.
can't pay them.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Right.
Wait, let Ms. Evans
Right.
just finish.
But we can't disperse the money because it's different than what was approved in December.
Right, but they're okay with it, the grant itself.
That's right. It's within the purview of the grant.
Said it's
Of the grant.
fine, it's okay, right? That's why it's read this way.
Rita,
Okay.
Madam
It's all
Chair,
right.
may I,
They said okay.
ask for some clarification? Madam Chair, may I
Yes,
ask
you
for
have
some-
one
Thank you.
more comment in this round, and then
One
we're...
more?
Yeah, two each,
Thank you.
so yours is your second.
The grant money that we offered was purely out of the generosity of the board. The administrator of the grant has no authority over how it is allocated. So that statement, in my belief, was not a purposeful mischaracterization, but certainly did not reflect the view that the board, that the UAE had control over what we could give it for. The original grant resolution said, you asked for these things, you needed this help, and the board from a 5-4 vote offered to give it. They then changed what they wanted, and we can now vote, regardless of who we contacted, to give it to them or not. I explicated the reasons why I think giving the money and changing the purpose of our gift is actually favoring one charter school over two others. So, in my opinion, if you vote yes for this, you're voting to give special treatment to one charter school over two others. The first proposal did not do that because it addressed specific hurricane damage that the other charter schools did not suffer. It said, listen, we will make the level playing field, and now you're responsible for your own technology. What we've chosen to do now, if you approve this, is to take in responsibility for one charter school's technology and not for two other ones. It's a position I don't believe the board wants to or should be in. That's just my vote. I'll make a motion to vote.
Any other comments?
Should I make a comment now or before?
Can I
Yes,
make a comment
we're going to
before we
make...
vote?
Before the vote?
Before we vote.
Okay, we're going to close comments. We're going to vote. You can make a comment before your vote. So then, everyone votes, they make their comment. Mine's the last vote, I make my comment, and then we're done with the item, okay? So call the vote. No, we have to make a
Yes, it was
motion.
motioned and seconded. Motion by Mr. Cluffeld, seconded by Dr. Gold. I can call roll if you wish.
Thank you.
Mr. Biancamano?
I personally believe that if the items that are requested by this one charter school falls in the scope of this grant, then it should be allowed. I think that we should be helping out our neighbors as much as we can in their efforts to rebuild after Sandy. The grant was $819,000. This is $28,000. That's 3.4% of what the grant actually was. So tonight I'm going to vote yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Dr. Gold?
As I stated, really feel bad for the other two charter schools. No.
Mr. Cluffeld?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes Kearns?
Yes,
Ms. Sobolov?
I voted no on this the last time, and I'm going to vote no on it again tonight, but I want people to understand that it's not because I'm some big meanie or some kind of charter hater, but my concern originally, as it is now, is you can see the confusion even on the board now. And my objection before was the state creates these separate districts and then has different rules that they apply differently to each district, and this grant was ours. And we became a de facto grant administrator, and all different kinds of questions came up. So my objection was with the process, and my rejection remains the same.
I'll record that as a vote no. Ms. Stromwell
Yes.
and Ms. Tyroller.
The original resolution, as Mr. Gold mentioned before, I actually did vote no, and the reasons were very similar to what Ms. Sobolov just mentioned. I feel that the way the grant process works is schools apply for grants, they get their grants, they write up their list of things. I'm sure we asked for 1.5 million, they come up and give us the amount of money. From what we understood, there was some kind of error, which I think personally we should have, as a board, deserved a true explanation of why Ola wasn't in the grant process or wasn't able to apply or whatever the reason was, and that's when this came to us. Once that gift was, and I think gift is actually a very good word that Mr. Gold used. Once that gift was approved, my philosophy on the board is, once we approve a resolution, whether it's 5-4 or 7-2, 9-0, 8-1, as a body, we stand behind what the body approves. Because it's like being in the office, and if you're in a meeting and there's 5 people in the meeting, and you had a different idea and you were outvoted, you don't come out of that meeting and announce to your group, oh my God, we're doing it the stupid way. You are a team player and you work as a team. This board approved this, and I think at this point, I wish we didn't have to go through the rigmarole and spend our BA's time calling the grant administrator and all that, but at this point, we've extended it, and I believe that we should accept the changes they have made, because I do believe it is related to Sandy, and I do believe it is separate from the other charters. So with that, I vote yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Now we'll be to public comments.
We have 4 speakers.
4 speakers. Please call the first speaker.
First speaker is Patricia Waiters.
Pat Waiters. I ran outside and made a couple of phone calls. Mothers was willing to go on speakerphone, but instead I had them text, because I want to refrain. I'm going to go real quick. This is about the waiting list. Dear Mrs. Waiters, I was told all the way early in June of 2014, okay, that there is no more room. My son go to Wallace, but my pre-K 4-year-old daughter was not accepted and is on the waiting list, okay? Now, these are the little emails that I was getting, and I will send it to you tomorrow. What was said is, again, okay, let me go over what I said again. I sat on that board. It seemed like they was happy like ding dong the witch's day when I left. But I'm still looking into things. I told you that. When you run for office, Pat Wade is going to hold you accountable. It's not fair to our kids. Everybody kids in Hoboken is my kids, whether you want me to advocate for you or not. This is a shame. Then this mother started in June. How would you know what the waiting list looked like all the way in June if there's not favors being given out? It sounds like free cookies to me. Okay? Now, what I was upset about, every time I speak and I get home and watch the meeting, it's like you rebuttal back after I leave. I'm not here to go back and forth and prove myself. I take what the people that live in this city give me, I investigate, and I try to get the facts. That's why I'm not discussing Mr. Gold tonight. Oh, look, and the phone's steady going. I should put it on so you can hear it. Well, anyway, I'm going to take these texts that I'm being texted today, and I will be sending it to you, Mr. Superintendent. And just for future references, I don't come up here to put nobody down. I am a candidate, and I only told these parents I got to refrain from helping them as an advocate because I am a board candidate. All right? But this is what I do, and y'all know that, win or lose. And Mr. Dr. Gold, that was good, what you did tonight. That's what I'm saying. I give credit when it's due. I didn't come here to bash you or beat you up, but a lot of people did come to me with questions about you stepping down. That's absolutely right. I just got finished talking about that in the county, how a lot of people did use Hurricane Sandy as a free-for-all. If you notice, every meeting I've been going to lately, a lot of generous gifts is coming out of Trenton. A lot of generous gifts is getting ready to come into Hoboken. And it is good to monitor that fund. I'm reading the language real close too. I'm not one against the other, but all of the schools, and being that that school is in that district, and like coming into Hoboken, it was a disaster. I have pictures too to prove it. I'm not defending one school from the other, but what I'm saying to you is funny. Even when I was going to the meetings in Trenton, all of these dollars I'm seeing coming in because of Sandy, so everybody jumped on the Sandy bandwagon. So it is good that we know somebody is alert and watching numbers, and it's about fairness, not about putting nobody down. And with that being said, thank you. But I will get this out to you guys tomorrow.
To Mr.
with the- a
Brickell, to
preschool.
Dr. Brickell. Thank you, Ms. Waiters. Next speaker, please.
Lynn Dansker.
Lynn Dansker, 1313 Park Avenue. In relationship to the CUSAC scores,
Yeah, my apologies for...
Madam President, you mentioned something that you got new textbooks and you didn't want to change the curriculum, because it would take too long and so on and so forth. And I just want to read a letter from the state New Jersey Department of Education that was sent to Dr. Richard Perkel, in relationship to why the appeal was denied on the instruction and program part of the score, which, as I mentioned earlier, was 45. And it says here that a review of the documentation provided by the district supports the county office's monitoring the team's assessment that instruction is primarily driven by textbooks and assessment programs and not aligned with the curriculum which is mandated by the state. So even though you thought that was a good idea, the state did not think it was a good idea, and that is one of the reasons that our school district did get a 45 score on the CUSAC instruction and program. Okay, two other points. Last month on the August 19th Board of Ed meeting, Leon Gold abruptly stepped down from the position as president of the board. He held that role, as far as I know, for about 5 months. So it's kind of interesting that he's... Okay, sorry, I stand corrected. So in interest of being transparent, which I think is what we all need to be doing, I feel everyone on this board needs to give the taxpayers, we deserve to know the reason why you stepped down. And if it...
You're running for school board, right?
I am.
Okay, thank you.
Please, Mr. Gold, let her finish. You'll have time to
It
respond.
is if it is something controversial, or if there's some kind of conflict of interest, perhaps you should also consider just stepping down from the board completely. Leon Gold is one of the 7 board members on the Kids First team. The second point, or the final point that I want to make, is our special needs kids. I was told by one of the board members that 3 of the district's special needs kids that are bused to school was not picked up on the first day of school. The drivers that were fired by this Board of Education knew these kids, knew their families, and they were replaced by a private bus company. After putting the safety and interests of our kids last, that move put the safety and interest of our kids last, not kids first. My name is Lynn Dansker, and yes, I am running for the board.
No kidding.
And as a Hoboken taxpayer, I believe that we need a change.
Okay. Oh, yeah, quiet down. I'm sorry, Fran, you're right.
I will repeat.
She has 1 minute left.
I have a right to say whatever I'd like to say. Yes, I am running for the Board of Education because I want to offer the Hoboken taxpayers a change, and I want to help build strategies so that our school district rises from the lowest ranks to one that our community stakeholders can be proud of. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Brian Murray.
Sorry.
Hi, Brian Murray, Maxwell Lane. I want to wish all the students welcome back for an exciting new school year.
Thank you.
You know, the summer brought many different issues and challenges, as many summers do. This one maybe more so than most. Back in June, we had budget meetings and budget approvals, and the budget was very, very tight and contentious, and people lost their jobs, and some people were illegally fired. And so I'd like to talk more about that and understand more about that because, when I was a young boy, there was something called Watergate that happened, which was a tremendous scandal. And there was a movie made about it, and I always remember that it was all about follow the money. So let's try to follow the money with the illegally fired aides for just a minute. So I see there might be three options here. One is that, hey, we made a mistake and the state actually pays their salaries, and so that's not really a budget issue. Although I couldn't understand why you would then fire them if you didn't have to pay for them. The second is that maybe you didn't know. Maybe you didn't know that it was illegal to fire the aides. That brings up a whole host of questions, but maybe you didn't know. So where's the money? Where's the money to pay for these aides that now you have to put back in? I mean, you fired the bus drivers, you fired the aides on the bus, you fired the kindergarten aides, now you got to hire back the kindergarten aides. So where's the money? I know the budget was tight to begin with, so where's the money? Where's the money? Show me the money. Which programs are getting cut to bring back these aides? Which other employees are going to be illegally fired to pay for these aides? Where's the money coming from? This is a budget issue. Mr. Gold, you can laugh, but it's a budget issue and you should know, where's the money? Just tell me where it is. And the third option is that you did know about it. You did know it was illegal and you did budget for it, and you figured if we can get this one by, we have some extra money in our budget, and if we don't get it by, and maybe some of the parents are smart enough to catch it, which they were, then here we are, we've got the money over here, and we can just move it over there, and then there's no problem. So I challenge this board, any member of this board, to just tell me where's the money. Did you budget for it? Did you not budget for it? Show me that you budgeted for it or you didn't budget for it, and show me which programs are getting cut and which aren't. My kids want to know. I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Was Mr. Murray the last speaker?
Mr.
One more?
Enrico?
I'm sorry.
Gary Enrico, last speaker.
Good evening. I really should be home watching America's Got Talent now, but when I come to these meetings, it's entertaining, really. All right, because some of these actors, I'm not on the board. I was on the board for 9 years, but I don't think a board would do something illegal if the county said it was all right. And we did lose 12 bus drivers, but I don't think a board, any board, would risk the lives of children, to tell you the truth. I mean, I've heard some pretty low things in my life in the Board of Ed, but those are pretty too tough. They're tough to handle, those two. All right, because now you're saying that you don't care about the children that you ought to represent. But put that aside for a second. What I really came up to do was to thank the members of the Board of Education negotiating team, Tom, Monica, Leon, Andy, who's not here, our team, which is here, Roseanne Versace, Beth Tomlinson, Ed, our UNICEF rep, Tara Donnelly, Brunilda, Medina, what are you going to now? She had to change her name. Her husband made her change her name, so it's Medina Munoz. And Frank Mazzone. All right, that's our team. I mean, there were some tense negotiations, but I think we could say that the children, and that's really what being on the Board of Ed is about the kids. All right, and when I hear people, not only tonight, when everybody gets up, it's about kids first, kids, this, that. It's really, we should hear more dialogue about kids, what we're going to try to do for kids. All right, and it's, it was a tough negotiations. I say it all the time, it's never personal, but I think this is one time I could say the children of Hoboken and the parents of Hoboken have benefited. We have taken a step again towards the parents of Hoboken and the kids by increasing the parent conference time, the tutoring time, And we did ask the Board of Education to pay the parking, but I think that was fair, and I know it was a sticking point at the end, because we're the only group in this town that pays for parking. We were paying at times up to $300 to park in a town where we educate the children of Hoboken. So again, Vito, thanks for tonight for helping us out, Dr. Brackell, and our assistant superintendent, because this is a deal that benefits the children of Hoboken. All right, again, it was a pleasure working with you. Have a good evening.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Enrico.
Madam Chair, if I may?
First, I'm just going to ask the administration if they want to make any comment? No? No?
If I may.
Yes, from the board.
Mr. Murray came up and asked a question, and we actually discussed this at the last meeting. I asked where the money was coming from for those kindergarten aides. And Mr. Moffett, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we're taking the $244,000 for these aides from a line item of health insurance, correct? We basically over budgeted for health insurance, and we're taking that to pay for the kindergarten aides to return. That's correct. So there's your answer, Mr. Mayor. No problem.
Other comments, Fran?
Yes, and I believe it's Lynn. She had mentioned about the CUSAC score being 45, and I'm equally upset about that, since a few years ago it was at 87, then dropped to 68, now it plummeted to 45. And Dr. Burkell, that district improvement plan, you will present it at, November meeting?
No.
The October meeting? Okay, so the members of the public will know what we're going to be doing to make those improvements, because that's a core, in my side too.
Absolutely.
Because I feel it's that revolving door, once again, that was a big problem with this, and that's why I'd like you to stick around for a while.
Thank you, Fran. Jean Marie, we're having one comment each. Would you like to say anything, or are you good?
One comment is, well, Fran, it'd be great if you work full-time, so do I, and the curriculum committee is after hours, so it'd be wonderful if you come and help us and discuss the curriculum issues. That'd be great. Thank you.
I was on the curriculum, but I had to remove myself because of the hours that it was, my personal situation. I'm the
Ms.
caretaker for my mother after I work, and on certain days I'm not available, and that was one of them. Just so
Okay,
you know,
Fran,
to
thank
be
you.
transparent to members of
Thank
the
you, Fran.
public.
Irene?
I wanted to kind of follow up on what you were saying about the CUSAC report, because one of the public speakers mentioned that the review of documents mentioned something about the textbooks, and I think you're both saying the same thing. What Ms. Tyroller was saying was that we made such great changes in the past few years. And when you replaced 20-year-old textbooks in science, language arts, and math, and there was that kind of catching up, I too would stand by that decision, because we were making sure that things were equal across the three schools, the three elementary schools in Hoboken, and I am incredibly proud of that, and making sure that the children had up-to-date materials, and if that caused a little bit of a lower score, and I'm not diminishing this, but I don't want people to think that the 45% is completely tied to, it's not like the NJS scores or something. In fact, the CUSAC review is something that not all schools even do. The charter schools do not have to abide by the CUSAC because they lobbied and said they would rather use other different benchmark things, which we have those assessments too. This is just one assessment, and if the score was lower, went down to 45% because we purchased new textbooks and we made all the three elementary schools equal, then I'm fine with that. I also just wanted to really quick say, and I think I kind of gave a little bit of a comment about this last year, the meetings before elections to me are always fascinating because there's more people in the audience and they come up to talk, and then I want to caution some of the people who've never run before to kind of, sometimes I think the tone you set is the tone you get, and I was a little bit shocked at how personal on the very first day before. So I just wanted to mention that. I think that we can keep it about kids, keep it about the schools, keep it about the issues without bringing people, making it personal and kind of leaving accusations hanging out there, and I just thought that was very unfortunate. Thank you.
Thank you. From this side of the dais, any comments before we close? Everyone good? And I just want to say in closing that committee attendance is dictated by your personal situations in your life, and people that have full-time jobs that work might not have jobs that enable them to take time off to be able to go to daytime meetings. People might have situations in their evening life, whether it's personal commitments or family situations that don't allow them to serve on evening committees. And I just wanted to say that we have to, unfortunately, also, there's always an administration, and we have employees, and our employees start their days very early in the morning. Our principals are here very early in the morning, and keeping people beyond and into the evening is not always, it means for a very long day. So unfortunately, committee scheduling has to be sporadic and only certain committees. We really need those main committees that require many people from the business office. They tend to be during the day, and that really is what happens in most communities. And it's unfortunate that at times board members are not being able to, because of true, honest commitments, are not able to attend. And I had another point, and I forgot what I was going to say. So with that,
Can I just make another comment?
No, I was closing comments
Well,
tonight.
As board members, we are allowed to make comments. There's not a limited amount of comments or a maximum amount of comments that we can make.
Well, I asked for comments, and I said I
Right,
was
and
going
then
to
you went
close
around the
with the
dais,
comments.
and I just want to make a comment with Ms. Soboloff regarding her comments. I just want to say, please,
Peter-
it'll be 30 seconds.
Then Irene will be allowed to respond. because
Fine,
it'll be
if
a
she wants to
second
respond, she
comment.
can respond.
And then that's it. Trying to run this organized and fairly.
All right. Well, I just want to say, Ms. Soboloff, I mean, you discussed a member of the public coming up here and using a tone that was a little aggressive or something like that.
Personal.
Well, we disagree with that. But at the same time, I mean, I can understand where the frustration is coming from when the public, when they see that the QSAC score is at 45%, when 2 QSACs ago it was at, 87%, and then 65% and 45%. So I can see why members of the public would be upset about it. I mean, I was upset about it when I first reviewed it, when it was emailed to me, but obviously, we received more information, and we hope that the district improvement plan could work going forward. I mean, we're hoping it does. So, go ahead.
Good, Peter?
Yes,
Okay. Irene, this is it?
The comment that I said was not discussing the QSAC scores. It was an allusion to something untoward or controversial in nature about a person sitting on this board. It had nothing to do with the QSAC reports.
But they're also-
I was saying to keep
Peter,
that
please.
person.
We're entitled to our opinion. It's an opinion.
Peter, it's
No, it's not.
Irene
It's
Stein,
leaving-
please.
No, it's not. It's leaving
Please.
some kind of.
Madam
Irene-
Chair, I don't want to speak on that.
No,
I want to
I'm
speak about the
actually-
committee, that you mentioned. The
I
committee
was-
that you mentioned, I just wanted to say that my work schedule has changed, and I get out at 1:30, so if one of those key committees like governance and personnel met during the day, when people are still here, I could attend.
Thank you.
Because the people are
Thank you.
here from 1:30 to 3.
Okay, watch the emails for when they send out the open seat
So you know that,
notification.
okay?
Thank
Thank
you.
Motion to close?
Motion to close.